Hi everybody and welcome to my blog. Today we're talking about assessment. Firstly, I want to state what assessment is. Well, the Merriam-Webster dictionary defines assessment as the act of making a judge about something. But from a teacher perspective, what is really assessment? Well, assessment is the act of evaluating students' progress on a specific ability through a specific criteria. Well, there are two major types of assessment, which are summative assessment and formative assessment. In this video, I will try to explain to you the purpose of each kind of assessment, some characteristics like positive aspects, backgrounds, and examples, also similarities and differences. Let's get down to business. Let's start with formative assessment. Formative assessment is considered part of an instructional process. This means that this kind of assessment takes place at the same time that the learning teaching process. Also, his purpose is to provide information about the instructional process. This means how good are the students doing it and what the teacher should do in order to help them. One of the main things of this kind of assessment is that there are no grades. This process it's based on feedback, which means that the teacher will be doing observations or giving opinions and advice about whether the areas the student is not doing it okay or whether the areas he must improve. Some of the examples of this kind of assessment are ungraded quizzes, draft work, question-answer drills, and portfolio. This kind of assessment is mostly related on the process and how they evolve and how they progress during this process while teaching and learning. Now we're moving to summative assessment. Summative assessment, in the other hand, is tend to summarize what students have learned or have done through a period of time. This can be the end of the course, this can be a unit or a period. Okay, now also this kind of assessment has some examples like test, final exams, graded projects, and a specific kind of exams. Now we're moving to the positive aspects of formative assessment. Some of the positive aspects are the provision of feedback between structures and students. They're sharing information and doing this process at the same time. So this increase or improve the interaction between students and teachers. Also students become actively independent on self-learning. This means that students are not just receiving the feedback, but rather they are knowing what they have to do. Also, this involves a lot of learning styles because teachers should modify his way of work or his strategies in order to help his students which have different learning styles. Another thing that is good about this kind of assessment is that reveals learning gaps and development delays. This means that it shows clearly where the information gap is, what information or what abilities the students are not improving or even though they're not developing, and the teacher can help them. Also develops timely feedback. That means that there's a sequence between the feedback that is gave by the teacher. In this case, students should be able to do things better than they did it previously. Also helps evaluate knowledge and understand specific subject matters through self-evaluation, co-evaluation, and they understand the expectations of the instructor. And also this makes a stronger relationship between students and instructors. Some of the drawbacks of formative assessment are the dependency on understanding the assessment process. This means that if the students doesn't realize if students don't realize of how important it is for them not only have a grade but rather to modify what they do, they won't be able to do anything. Also, this most of the times has to do with the students' participation or disposition, because as we know, we have to invite our students to participate, and this is the way self-learning takes place. Well, there are some unfair advantage for some students, because there are students who can do it in a magnificent way at first, but others will have the chance to improve through time. So this can be kind of unfair between students. And there are a lot of negative time factors for teachers. They get stressed because of all the feedback they have to provide to the students after work hours, and there's a lot of cost because they have to not only assign new materials but also invest money in buy things to provide this feedback. And also there's a lack of participation among students because sometimes they don't realize of how important is this process. Well, now we're moving to summative assessment. Summative assessment, it's strongly related to grades, and that's the way we compare schools between them. Also, parents feel really comfortable with his sons being graded. Also, there's a lot of comparison with the No Children Left Behind process. That means a bunch of schools are sharing this information through grades and realizing where they're failing or not. Well, also there are a lot of other positive aspects. Like as I said, parents are strongly influenced by this kind of assessment. Also, there are some drawbacks, like time lag in assessment. So many times we don't know enough purposes because there are a lot. Some of them could be, and I'm going to mention it, certifying and measure mastery subject and specific skills, indicate the effort students put forth, to compare students in terms of competence, progress, and effort, identify students' learning strategy, strengths and needs, group students of instructional process, and to determine programs' effectiveness. So this means that it's kind of unfair for students to be based only on one kind of assess, in this case summative assess, because we don't know under which exact objective they are being evaluated. Well, another background is the poor information that is provided. There's an enormous lack of details because they're just focusing on the grade, what they did and the grade, but rather the process that takes place during the learning teaching process. And finally, the relation that is between the school curriculum and the national evaluation. This means that some schools will be less appropriate or more appropriate according to national evaluations, but rather the curriculum of the school. Well, now we're moving to similarities. There are a lot of similarities actually, but the most important are next ones. Active instructor involvement. This means the teacher has to be aware of what he's doing, and he must be pleased with doing it and to help his students. Also, he must provide and motivate students to learn, because that's the way they start acquiring this new language. And it should be, and the teacher should recognize the codependence between these kind of assessments, meaning that you can give grades but also focus on the process. That will be the main idea. And the main difference, as I said before, is grades against feedback. As we know, feedback cannot be taken so seriously since they're just being observed or they're just being helped. And grades help them a lot to achieve something and to make them feel proud of what they did, but we never know what's behind all that process. Well, now, to my conclusion, I want to say that it must have be a combination between these two kinds of assessment. The students should be graded, yes, but they also need to be followed during their process of learning. Why? Because you can help them to improve some skills to do it better, and they're earning a grade. Not winning, earning. So, well, that will be it for my video, and I would like to use my last minute to talk about my experience during this, while doing this video, and it was awesome. Every time I speak in front of camera, I feel like the information is fluid. I'm trying to speak as clear as I can, and this is a good tool in order to practice my speech abilities. Also, I realized that as teachers, evaluate is not only a one-way process. The students should be able to recognize what they're doing, what they have done, and what are they improving. And finally, I would like to say that evaluating and assessment requires a lot of dedication from teachers, also from students, but from teachers too. They need to have a lot of effort to be aware of how important is this whole assessment process, and also the importance of mix both kinds, not only focus on feedback, not only focus on grades, but rather to give a grade according to feedback. So that will be my conclusion. Thanks for watching. I'll be waiting for your comments below, and thank you. Bye.